A very good morning and a warm welcome to all our esteemed guests and to dear learners. I'm Dr. Riya Chakra from the Homeopathic Academy, and we are here to discuss a very essential topic, overview of miasma theory with Dr. Harsh Nigam. So in the last webinar with Dr. Harsh Nigam, we had informed all our learners that this topic will be taken up in 3 sessions. Today is the second session. So we have Dr. Harsh Nigam live with us right now. But before we go ahead with this webinar, most of you already know about the Homeopathic Academy. But for those who don't, let me quickly introduce ourselves. So the Homeopathic Academy, or THA as we call it, is DGen's effort towards digitalizing homeopathy and providing a platform for quality education online. THA offers you a range of online courses by well-known academicians on numerous subjects of homeopathy at undergraduate, postgraduate, UPSC and CME level. All these courses are enriched with state-of-the-art audio-video technology, text and vector animation, giving you an HD quality audio and video experience made by a dynamic team of qualified doctors, video editors, and many more professionals. These courses will perfectly complement your studies to make learning an extraordinary experience. On your screens, you can see some of our courses currently streaming on our website, www.thehomeopathicacademy.com. You can also see the course on Modus Foundation and Modus Subscriber by Dr. Harsh Nigam. Here, Dr. Nigam will teach us how to adapt the concepts of organon in modern clinical scenario, an essential need for all us modern homeopaths. So that's about us. Thank you for listening. Coming back to this webinar, Dr. Harsh Nigam, can we please have you here with us?
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for being here with us today. And let me quickly introduce you to the learners that have joined us for the first time. So, Dr. Harsh Nigam. He is a renowned practitioner and an author of 8 books on homeopathy and 12 research papers published in various Indian journals. Despite having obtained MBBS and MD in physiology, he could not suppress the heritage of homeopathy that he received from his homeopathic father, Dr. Jagdish Chandra Nigam. Dr. Harsh then obtained his membership of faculty from the Royal London Homeopathic Hospital, UK. Currently, he is spearheading a multi-speciality OPD hospital at Kanpur, a center of excellence in medical homeopathy, a center now well known for providing research-based medical solutions to various health issues. He aims to establish homeopathy on its scientific merit and to make it integrated with orthodox medicine in such a way that the scope and limitations of homeopathy are well defined. His ambition to educate young homeopaths has led him to write 8 books on homeopathy, and 2 of those internationally recognized books are Principles and Practice of Homeopathic Case Management, and the other book is Miasma, A Road Less Traveled, as you can see on your screen. He is also a nominated member of editorial board of IJH and an ex-member for Special Committee of Clinical Research at the Central Council for Research in Homeopathy, New Delhi. So we are pleased that you are part of our team, and thank you for being here with us. And before I hand over to you, let me quickly explain our learners how this interface works. So on the right-hand side panel of your screens, you have a short chat box. You may type your questions or whatever message you have for Dr. Harsh Nigam there and press the button next to it to send it to us. I request you all to send your questions only after Dr. Nigam's lecture is over, as that might disturb him and we wouldn't want that. Without wasting any more time, let's start learning. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. So let's start with today's presentation. And now today we are going to talk about the theory of miasma after Hahnemann. Now first, distilling down what Hahnemann observed about miasma. Now Hahnemann observed all about miasma on the cutaneous plane. That means on the exterior of the human body. Now what he told about Sora, whatever he meant about Sora, He said internal sora. Now, what internal sora expressed on the skin was, according to Hahnemann, itch, and not only itch, but eruption in the form of herpetic tetters. Then, internal psychosis. For him, miasma was not psychosis. Psychosis was gonorrhea at that time, but for him, miasma meant internal psychosis. And externally, it was manifested as condylomata and gleat. Similarly, miasma for Hahnemann meant internal syphilis, not syphilis the disease. And it was externally manifested as ulcer and bubo. Now let us move forward in time. Next came in time in homeopathy another stalwart, J.H. Allen. Now to Allen goes the credit that Allen proposed Soric theory of disease. Now Hahnemann stated that the fundamental cause of all disease, including psychosis and syphilis, is sora. Now, what did Hahnemann mean? It was a bit confusing at that point of time. But actually, Hahnemann was propagating in his theory that the causation of chronic miasmatic disease is sora. Now, Allen refers to this as Soric theory of disease. Hahnemann's hypothesis was that chronic disease are chronic because there is some unknown devitalizing principle which subverts life forces in such a way that the dynamic mistunement of health cannot be corrected. He called this unknown devitalizing principle to be chronic miasma. Now, in those times, miasma theory meant that there is a emanation which is spreading in the air, exerting a morbid influence. Now, Hahnemann meant that this devitalizing principle is kind of a emanation spreading in the vital principle, leading the vital principle or vital force to be polluted and thus causing disease. This was Hahnemann's theory, while medical science at Allen's time accepted another theory, and that was Virchow's cellular pathological theory. Now, Virchow's cell, the unit of life, was vivified by chemical processes or by chemical changes. At that very time, Koch formulated the germ theory of disease. Now, this was opposite to what Hahnemann said. Now, here came Allen. And for Hahnemann and homeopathy, the guiding fundamental principle are the dynamic origin of disease, the dynamization of drug, and the application of similia. Now here, Allen proposed bond of sora with life forces. Allen said that this soric theory of disease, we must not look from the biochemical side, but from the biophysical side, which he said at that point of time, the potential side. Now this in itself is a whole different kind of study which we are going to talk about later. Now sora is that potential which when becomes well bonded with the life force, it cooperates with this life force. Together, these two, along with other mayas, cause the physiological deflections. Now these physiological deflections, they cause functional disturbances, which means pathophysiology first, followed by structural deflections, and then pathological changes. Now this is what now modern medicine accepts. And this is what Allen's genius proposed way before time. Now, under this influence of perverted life action, Sora, life force is no longer a true dynamis, but it is in bond with another dynamis, Sora, which knows no law and has no life giving qualities in it. In fact, all the dealings of Sora are destructive. It is the same with miasmatic potential. It is an invisible and unseen thing. Potentials are invisible, like electricity, and we know in our body that we have potentials. Yet we see the effects of its presence in the organism long before any changes of tissue take place. We see it first as a rule, first manifest in the mental sphere, then in the physiological or functional, then finally in the pathological. The pathological, of course, coming last. Then finally, Allen proposed potential study of miasmatics. Now, this is something that you must understand, you must study. If you want to really go in depth, if you want to study miasma in depth, we generally see the landmark of one of these chronic miasms stamped upon the organism. We see it in every feature and every physiological process, in the shape and contour of the body, upon the visual expression. Patient walks into your room, you can see the miasma stamped on the face. We see it on the skin. By the response in the very inner being, the mental, the moral, even the spiritual, give us the responses of the presence and influence of the miasma. This study is very important. We are going to talk about the key points of the miasma later on, and I'll tell you how to rapidly understand which miasma is active on the patient. This can only be understood if you understand Allen's miasmatic potential. We see disease to be expression of three basic potentials: the pathophysiological trend. He who has become acquainted with the higher homeopathics of Hahnemann, which comprises not only of disease potentials, but the drug action, can apply the law of similia at a deeper level. Now, Allen also tells us that we must study these miasms. We see they express themselves in their degree of action and in their nature. Now, the degree of action of any miasm is primary, secondary, and tertiary. In their nature, the miasma can be acute, they can be chronic, and they can be latent. Allen also proposed pseudosora for the first time. Allen observed a new miasma in his time, which he named pseudosora, which later came to be known as tubercular miasma. Then in time came James Taylor Kent. Now, Kent has been accused of taking miasma to a metaphysical level, which is partly true, but it should not be an accusation. James Taylor Kent introduced metaphysical ideas into miasma theory, which stem from his Swedenborgian background. He was an avid Swedenborgian. Like Hahnemann, he attributed the cause of all disease to Sora. According to Kent, however, it is never possible for Sora to manifest itself in a healthy race. A weakness must be there first. He considered this weakness to be the original sin, a legacy passed from generation to generation. The syphilitic and psychotic mayas can be contracted through sexual contact, not so Sora. Kent interprets Sora as a product of impure thought and human materialism, which is itself the precursor of physical degeneration. You have to have an impure thought first, then you would have a will, and then when you have an impure will, then you would go to a brothel. When you go to a brothel, then only you will contact syphilis or gonorrhea. Kent correlates the disease of humankind to their aspiration which he interprets as the mirror of their innermost part. This being the metaphysical aspect of Kent to the miasma theory. But Kent was also amongst the first to interpret the pathological aspect of miasma. The primary skin reaction in psora consists of vesicular eruptions. The concept of all-pervading miasm suggested to Kent that it is physically seated in the circulatory vasculature. Now see, Kent's observation is telling us that physically psoric miasma is seated in circulatory vasculature, which is very true. Which means if you correlate this to current pathology, that immune system is situated in circulatory vasculature. So his observation is right. Then he also observed the mucocutaneous manifestation associated with syphilis are firstly the chancre and secondly the bugo. By this reasoning, tissue destruction is the key characteristic associated with both the disease and its miasmatic counterparts. The proposed loci for syphilitic miasm are periosteum, bone, and brain, as would be expected from the tissue pathologies associated with secondary and tertiary syphilis. Kent observed an affinity of the psychotic miasma to the soft tissues and those stemming from mesoderm. He described the psychotic taint as waxy with pale lips, translucent ears with warts and papillomata. Mucous membranes such as conjunctiva and sinuses are usually affected. Children born with psychotic tendencies are of a waxy anemic complexion. They have a poor digestion. Their stools frequently contain undigested food. They are worse for heat and fail to thrive. Hahnemann had a very limited understanding of psychosis. Kent took Hahnemann's ideas further. Empirically researching the pattern of psychosis, he gave a useful description of his observation in the lecture notes of Materia Medica in the chapter Natrum Self and Psychosis. Following Kent's argument to its logical conclusion, many conditions can be conceptually linked to one of the miasm in terms of their tissue involvement and pathology. In this table, you can see that psora, the tissue which is mainly concerned is cutaneous tissue. The pathology is inflammation and the result is desquamation. In psychosis, the tissue involved is mesodermal and endothelial tissue. The pathology is proliferation and the result is fungation. In syphilis, the tissue that is involved is submucosal and periosteal, and the pathology is destruction, and the result is induration and caseation, ulcer formation. So James Taylor Kent not only infused metaphysical idea, but also studied miasma at the level of pathology. Then we turn towards H.A. Roberts. Now Roberts linked the miasmatic stigmata with disturbed assimilation. Whereas psora has difficulty in assimilating constructive elements, the psychotic patient tend to assimilate to the point of overgrowth. He considered psora to be a deficiency disease. Functional disturbance manifests themselves due to lack of vital elements in the system or the inability to assimilate them from food. There are no structural changes associated with psora. In his definition, these occurs in combination with other miasma. Symptoms are closely related to emotional disturbances. Roberts considered the mental condition as one of the strongest characteristics of latent SORA. These patients are mentally alert, their mind is keen, anxiety state dominate. There is also restlessness, that is physical and mental itch. Roberts expands on the picture of psychosis by painting a mental image. He describes the psychotic patient exceedingly suspicious, not even trusting her or himself. As a result, this person goes back to do or say things over and over again. The psychotic person has a suspicion they will not be fully understood, and others will give the wrong meaning to what she or he conveys. This suspicion can lead to jealousy. The most degenerate feature of the psychotic nature are the suspicion, the tendency to harm others and themselves and animals. Quarrelsomeness and irritability are also displayed in the psychotic pathology. So in psychotic person, you would have suspicion, you would have quarrelsomeness, tendency to harm himself or others, and jealousy. The syphilitic state, according to Roberts, is characterized by structural changes. There are far fewer sensitiveness to environment and food. Overall, there are fewer subjective symptoms. The syphilitic appearance, moist, gluey, greasy hairs with offensive odor, hair falling out in bunches. Syphilis is known to deform everything. Ulcerations are a hallmark of syphilitic stigmata. Now, the view of Roberts can be tabulated in such a form. SORA, the keyword is deficiency. Characteristic of metabolism is under assimilation and outward loss. Tissue reaction is that the structure is intact, and mentation is anxiety neurosis. Psychosis, excess. Characteristic of metabolism is over assimilation and retentiveness. Tissue reaction is overgrowth. Mentation is obsessive state. Syphilis, disorganized. Characteristic of metabolism is self-assimilation, inner and outer disruption. Tissue reaction is deformity, and mentation is psychosis. Now, this is psychological psychosis and not miasmatic psychosis. Then, coming to T.P. Paschereau. Paschereau was the first man to define SORA as a morbid derangement of the whole body imprinted on genome, a particular reactional mode against pathogenic agent. Soric defense reaction, supernormal or hypergic response limited to functional state with no structural or gross pathology. He identifies the neurovegetative as the mediator of soric response, and he concludes that there is no difference between SORA and allergy. So this is a giant leap that homeopathy took under Paschereau, wherein SORA was defined as allergy. SORA as defect, psychosis as excess, and syphilis as perversions were the keywords given by Paschereau. His understudy, Iziaga and Ortega, related the miasm to disturbance of the most important vital function. SORA is the state of hyperexcitation of vital functions, a dynamic lack of balance of vital force. It is associated with functional, not lesional disturbances. He sees psychosis as perverted functional activity leading to hypertrophy of ego and tissues, perversion of feeling, especially those related to love. Thus, the psychotic taint is associated with sexual perversion, obsession, reservation, suspicion, aggressiveness, and jealousy. So, according to Iriaga and Ortega, SORA is excitation, psychosis is dysfunction, syphilis is inhibition. Then in 1984, O.A. Julian and Haffen gave a view of miasma based on modern concepts of genetics, biochemistry, molecular biology, toxicology, immunology, and ecology. According to them, SORA is dysimmunosis, psychosis is dysmorphogenosis, syphilis is dysmetabolosis. These words have certain meaning. Now, dysimmunosis is altered immunologic response. Dysmorphogenesis is based in damaged and mutated DNA. Dysmetabolosis is based in damaged and mutated DNA. Now, dysimmunosis is aggression of mineral, chemical, vegetable, and animal origin. SORA has multiple manifestations, including metastasis and morbid alternate state. Dysmorphogenesis transmitted in an autosomic dominant pattern. Dysmetabolosis, enzymatic catabolic pathways transport across cellular membranes. Now, this is something which is very hard to understand, and in due course of time, this was lost, and homeopathy in general forgot about it. But a relatively not very well known theory, which was given by Manford Corbello, is a very plausible theory about miasma. If you review the normal and abnormal repair mechanism of cell and tissue, the classic concept of miasma as obstacle to vital force trying to cure a diseased organism does not seem to be appropriate. Instead of being considered as obstacles in healing procedure, we should see them as inherited or acquired disrupted repair mechanism of cell and tissues or disrepair. Linking these types of disrepair with knowledge of the homeopathic concept of reactional modes giving the following result. The soric reactional mode can be understood as a defect in molecular repair, example asthma, epilepsy, and high blood pressure. The syphilitic reactional mode can be understood as a defect in the apoptic processes which lead to anticipated death, example Alzheimer's, or to necrosis producing ulcerative and destructive lesion, example ulcerative colitis. The psychotic reactional mode can be understood as a defect in control of cell division and extracellular matrix production due to mutation in DNA repair consequences and excessive cell and ECM proliferation with tumor production and fibrous tissue formation. So I think Manford Corbello's theory is holding water. The soric reactional mode, a defect in molecular repair. Syphilitic reaction mode, a defect in apoptotic process which leads to anticipated cell death, leading to necrosis, producing ulcers. Psychotic reactional mode, a defect in control of cell division and ECM production, leading to tumor production and warty fibrous tissue formation. Then Rajan Shankaran's theory, which is very interesting in its idea linking three chronic miasms to stages in our life. He considers that youth is susceptible to acute miasm. Then responses at this time are quick and illness can be easily thrown off. The threats are external and provoke strong instinctive reaction. Early adulthood is SORA. Middle age is psychosis. And old age is syphilis, the decay. This is an interesting idea, and I think this also holds water if you look into a age related pattern. Then comes my theory. Now this I have been working on since 1998, linking the whole immune system to miasma. Now I recognize miasma as a dynamic alteration of dynamic vital force. And I recognize that stamp of miasma is visible at every level of the human organism, including the mind, including autonomic nervous system, hormonal and autoregulatory mechanism, including reproductive, repair, anabolic process, including catabolic and apoptotic processes, and even the human form. Since Hahnemann's time, pathophysiology has moved on. Now, one thing is clear that in the genesis of disease, immunity is the common denominator. It is clear now that chronic diseases as well as acute diseases ruin health via immunity. This has been established by psychoneuroimmunology and pathoimmunobiology. We can explore miasma theory on the basis of immunity, and I have tried to do so. Now, immunity and homeopathy. Altered immunity, a state of hypersensitivity, which is now known as hypersensitivity reaction, which lead to immunodamage, which lead to chronic disease. Then another state, immunodeficiency states, which lead to external pathogens attacking our body and causing direct cellular damage, which again lead to chronic disease. Please take note that Soric reactional mode is an oscillatory reactional mode because it oscillates between hypersensitivity reactional immune states and hypoimmunoreactional state. By this logic, hypersensitivity immune reactions are fundamentally Soric reactional mode, which means that Sora is the fundamental cause of all disease, as Hahnemann has stated, wherein there is a bond of Sora with the vital forces, which means the state of health is served so that the immune system becomes altered from its normal to abnormal. Now, immunodamage caused by hypersensitivity leads to a spectrum of disorders. And there are 5 types of basic hypersensitivity reactions. Now I draw similarity of 5 miasma to 5 basic hypersensitivity reactions in the table below. Now type 1 hypersensitivity disorder, which is IgE mediated hypersensitivity, which is anaphylaxis, which is typified by itch. There's itch and there is a wheel and flare reaction, which is Soric reaction. Type 2, complement mediated hypersensitivity, cytotoxic reaction. This is syphilitic, wherein there is cell destruction. Type 3, IgM, IgG mediated hypersensitivity, Arthus reaction, thrombus formation. This is psychotic. You see there is excessive clot formation. Then type 4, T cell mediated hypersensitivity, CMI delayed hypersensitivity, granuloma formation. This is miasmatically tubercular or pseudosora. Then type 5, antigen antibody mediated hypersensitivity. The stimulatory type, cancer, cancer miasma or stimulate. This is cancer miasma. So as there are 5 hypersensitivity tissue damages, there are 5 miasma, 5 basic miasma. That's the theory that I have worked upon. In the next webinar, we are going to talk about the immunity and in detail about immunity and miasma. And if you wish, in the last, we can take another webinar on potential aspect of miasma as detailed by Allen. And then your theory of miasma and your understanding of miasma would be complete, both from the pathological side and from the potential side. And then you would understand, and I would teach you the keywords, how to understand miasma by the look of it, and would give you certain clinical examples of it. Dr. Ria?
Yes, sir.
I think I've completed my presentation today. If there are any,
thank you so much, sir.
Yes,
sir. Thank you so much. That was really very enlightening. We learned a lot today, and we really love the theory how you have correlated hypersensitivity reactions to miasms. A very new approach, and I would like to request all our dear learners to comment in the chat box with their questions now, so that we can quickly take up your questions and clear all your doubts from Dr. Harsh Nigam himself. And while they're doing so, sir, can you please say a few words about the course that we have at THA with you?
Course, as you know, is connecting clinic to the classroom. In your classroom, you read so many things which are sometimes applicable, sometimes you seem to not to be able to connect it to the clinic. The course is going to teach you about the fundamentals in the modern way, and how to apply the stuff that you learn in your class to the clinic, and to get predictable and right results, which is actually very easy to get if you know the fundamentals very clearly and you apply it in the right way and you get the right result.
Thank you, sir. And I would also like to inform our learners that we have an offer going on of 30% off on our website on all the courses, including Dr. Harsh Nigam's course on Modus Foundation and Modus Prescriber, available as a combined course and as a 2 separate courses as well. So you can use the code FD30 and you can avail the offer. I'm even showing you on your chat about the offer. So another important thing, you have a section of poll on the chat window. Please send us your reviews on our webinar today. And so let's take up some questions, sir. If we have received some, let's see. Okay, we are already flooded with questions. All right. So, sir, a learner wants to know how can we recognize the SORA syphilis in a person by hypersensitivity? How can we recognize the miasm maybe?
By hypersensitivity, how you can recognize SORA? Very simple. It's very simple. It's written on the face. The psoric person's face would have tetters, eruptions. It would be, you can smell psoric smell on the scalp itself. The hairs would be smelly. There's a typical psoric smell on the hairs. The person would be itchy. a syphilitic person, you can see the face. The teeth would be um, not in line. They would be crooked. The by hypersensitivity damage, if you would like to know, then it would be ulcerative pathology. The pathology would be ulcerative in syphilitic, while the pathology in psoriatic person would be it would be autoimmune diseases would be common in psoriatic person, while ulcerative damage would be common in syphilitic person. So if you want to understand it through hypersensitivity, this would be the way you understand it.
Thank you, sir. A learner wants to know, can you please explain what is miasmatic prescribing?
Oh, very good. The miasmatic prescribing deals with, you first recognize that what is the miasma which is active. And when you repertorize the case, you take, suppose you have taken a full repertory and taken a full history, then while you are repertorizing, you only take those symptoms which are relevant to the miasma and not to the whole. You don't take the whole symptoms or whole symptomology, but only the miasmatic symptomology, the miasma which is active, and you forget about other symptoms. And that is taking the topmost layer of that case. And suppose somebody comes to you and you've taken the whole case, and the presenting problem of the case is mouth ulcers and salivation and stitching pain in the throat. And this is the presenting complaint. Now you know by your knowledge of miasmatics that syphilitic miasma is topmost, which is causing the problem. Now, there may be hundreds of other symptoms which are important, but you take these symptoms as the most important symptoms and you repertorize the case and you give the medicine. Now, suppose this person is also chilly. Then you take the general symptoms also, and then you prescribe. So there might be a chance that lycopodium is a constitutional medicine in such a case, but you don't give lycopodium because Merxol is also coming. You give Merxol because Merxol in this case is more suitable. So Merxol is the first medicine to be given and not lycopodium. If you see, Merxol and lycopodium both are in repertory, both are given as for the symptom salivation at night. So now if you are thinking miasmatically, so miasmatically you know that syphilitic miasma is active in this case, and you give Merxol and not lycopodium. So this is miasmatic prescribing.
Thank you so much, sir. A learner wants to know which theory that we discussed today, which theory was more accurate or is more accurate, since at that time when these theories were made, the atmosphere and lifestyle were so different from what we have today.
All theories are partly correct. You know, if you see, when I was explaining about vital force, I was telling you that vital force is seen from all the angles. All angles are different angles. Like it can be seen from the angle of immunity. It can be seen from the angle of anabolism. It can be seen from the angle of catabolism. It can be seen from the angle of human form. So all theories are partly correct. No theory, because miasma can be viewed from, it can be viewed from all the places. It can be, the stamp of miasma can be seen on the face, it can be seen on the emotional aspect, it can be seen on the pathology, it can be seen at every place. So there is no one theory which would be you can say that this is right and this is wrong. All theories are correct. The idea is to know every bit of theory and then apply your brain into it. The most plausible theory, I mean, the most justifiable thing would be that immunity is the cause of disease. So once you understand how immunity works, then you would also understand that by immunity you can justify miasma. The idea is to how to justify a miasmatic theory, because miasmatic theory seems to be very abstract, and you need to justify miasmatic theory according to the science of the day. And with immunity, you can justify miasmatic theory to the boot. You can also justify the theory of elimination. You can also justify the theory of suppression. You can also justify Herring's law. You can also justify that what immune system is trying to do, as miasmatic theory explains us. So immunity explains everything what Hahnemann was trying to tell you in the name of miasma.
Right.
So this is something that you need to understand, that Hahnemann was telling you in the name of miasma what science is now telling you in the name of immunity. It's one and the same thing.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Another learner wants to know, is constitutional prescribing and miasmatic prescribing the same thing?
Constitutional prescribing is, misunderstood. There is no such thing as we understand constitutional prescribing today is something different. What Kent said, if you are meaning by constitutional prescribing what Kentian prescribing is understood, then Kentian prescribing is very simple. By Kentian prescribing, we mean is it's a totality-based prescribing. When you say totality-based prescribing, it means that totality is based upon taking everything into account, the whole mental general, physical general, and striking singular uncommon peculiar symptoms. So this is so-called constitutional prescribing. The real constitutional prescribing, which was coined, the word constitutional prescribing, which was coined, it was coined by Woodwards. And this meant that only physical generals are to be taken into account. So this was, there is a book by Woodwards named as Constitutional Prescribing. In that, only physical generals were to be taken into account. So actually, constitutional prescribing meant that. But what has come to be known as constitutional prescribing today is called as totality-based prescribing. Now, miasmatic prescribing is based on this theory, wherein you take only the miasmatic, the active. First, you recognize the active miasma. When you recognize the active miasma, you take the symptoms of the active miasma on all the levels, on the physical, on the mental, on the general, and then you repertorize it. So there is in miasmatic prescribing also, you take the totality. In classical, in totality-based so-called constitutional prescribing also, you take the totality. The idea is to take the totality and then prescribe. If you can't take totality, then it's a different thing. But it's always good to take totality and then prescribe.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. A learner wants to know what makes miasm so difficult and messy for the budding homeopath. Why is it so difficult?
It's difficult because you need experience and clinical experience to sit with somebody who knows miasma and who can show you the miasma on patients. The difficult part is this. I've been lucky in this way because I sat with my father who knew miasma and could show me the miasmas. You can see miasma, and this is actually, you need to have patience, sit down with somebody who knows about miasma, and then you can see the miasma. Miasmas are, patient comes to you and you can see the miasma. Miasmas cannot be, it's very hard to teach miasma. They can be, passed on from some master to you. It's difficult. I understand this problem, that they are difficult to, learn from book, but they can be easily, seen if you are sitting with somebody who knows about miasma. And I can understand this problem. But if you can read from the books, then you have a pretty good idea. Now, with the help of audio-visual aids, you can have a pretty good idea of miasmas. And this is my, I hope by the end of my practice, I would have pretty good audio-visual kind of things for students, so that you don't need somebody to sit. You can always have your computer and you have, live audio, miasmatic presentation to you, so that you can understand this is miasmatic case, and this is the patient with active miasma. And in fact, I'll be telling you in the next session, I'll be showing you certain keys to understanding miasma.
That would be great. So thank you so much. Waiting for more questions. We can take up one or two more questions if we have more. So quickly send your questions for Dr. Harshnigam. Okay, a learner wants to know if you have any books on the subject. In the introduction to Dr. Harshnigam, I had shown you there are 8 books by him. Sir, if you would like to suggest your books to them.
Miasma Road Less Traveled is a complete guide to miasma.
Yes, sir. So you have heard it. Miasma Road Less Traveled is the book by Dr. Harshnigam, and you can buy it to know more in detail about his theory. Okay, so we have another question. So how can we consider tubercular and cancer as a miasm? Because unlike psoriasis, psychosis, and syphilis, their primary manifestation has not been mentioned anywhere. So how can we consider them?
Their primary manifestation have been mentioned. You would have to first buy this book of mine, and then you will get to know. They are complex miasma. If you would understand, primary miasma are 3, psoriasis, psychosis, and syphilis. And when you combine psoriasis, tubercular miasma is in 2 stages, psoriasis and then psychosis. This is primary stage, then psoriasis and syphilis. Later stages, pseudo, that is why it is called as pseudo-psoriasis. And then psoriasis, psychosis, syphilis, all 3 combined is cancer miasma. And if you would read my book, you would come to understand that these are, now world over, it is considered that there are 5 basic miasma, and they are tubercular miasma, cancer miasma, psoriasis, psychosis, and syphilis. And in my book, it's a very detailed and long kind of consideration. So if you would read that book, you would come to understand I am not the only one who's telling so. There have been authorities, starting from Allen, who first told us about, he was the first to discern about tubercular miasma, and then Schwann. And similarly, it was Donald Foerster who was the first man to discern about cancer miasma, and later on, n number of authorities have written about it. And my book has collected from different sources and given you a full detailed package of symptoms of both the miasma. So you can go through it.
Thank you, sir. A learner wants to know, for psychiatric illnesses, which type of prescribing you recommend? Like it should be miasmatic or constitutional or just totality?
I would guess the totality of symptoms would be the best approach. Herein, I would also tell you that my experience is that homeopathy works best for neurotic phenomena. When it comes down to psychotic phenomena, I have seen that homeopathy does not give you a very satisfying result. Till neurotic phenomena, homeopathy, I would say, the best way of treating people, and totality based treatment is a constitutional treatment is the best treatment that I would recommend. After that, once psychotic phenomena settles in, then homeopathy does not give me at least a very good result. And I try then to pacify the patient with miasmatic or other approaches. But for neurotic phenomena, I would say constitutional medicine is the best medicine.
Thank you, sir. So, some learners are wanting to know where can they watch the session one of this of this session of this topic. So, let me tell them that they can watch it on our website, thehomeopathicacademy.com, under the Dialogue section. We have uploaded all the webinars, the recordings. They can also watch it on our YouTube channel named THA. And also, if you had registered for the first session, you must have received the mail with the replay link, so you can watch it there. So all the registrants of the webinar receive the replay link of the webinar for them to watch it later, at least 24 hours after the webinar they receive it. So you can watch it there. So I guess so we should wind up now. It's almost time. So quickly, I would like to thank you, Dr. Nigam, for such informative and enriching experience. Very warm gratitude on behalf of THA and on behalf of VGen. And sorry to those if I couldn't take up your questions. We were running out of time. Also, to inform our learners, we have an upcoming free webinar by Dr. Ronak Shah, scheduled for 18th of September. And I'm providing you the link for registration over here. You can quickly register for it. The webinar is on phosphorus, the clinical approach, on 18th of September, 4 p.m. And we do have regular quizzes for our learners, and they can take part in those quizzes through this link that I'm providing. And so that's it for today. Thank you so much, sir. Would you like to say something to our learners?
Keep learning, and I know miasma is difficult to explain and difficult to register, but keep on track and it's going to open up to you. Don't worry. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, all the homeopaths, all the students who came here, and thank you so much, Team THA. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Keep learning and keep improving.